With the first pick of the 2018 CFL Draft, the Hamilton Tiger Cats select Mark Chapman, receiver, Central Michigan University. Montreal, you are now on the clock.
All right, and here's a look at some of the details surrounding Mark Chapman. Really not a surprise here, and clearly the top receiver in the draft. He showed the most polished, the most explosiveness, and a guy that really is pro-ready on so many levels, Dwayne, coming out of Central Washington.
Yeah, and Michigan. This is really the thing that stands out when you talk about Mark Chapman, is the fact that he is unique in this draft. The law of supply and demand dictates. That's why this guy's going #1, is because he is so special. A guy who is seen as relatively ready to step into the lineup. And you look at a team in Hamilton running what kind of offense? Run and shoot, where you're typically seeing small, quick receivers, which is exactly what Mark Chapman is. The hope is that he is going to be a perfect fit for their offensive scheme.
Yeah, I think that was really what nailed it for Hamilton, was not just that this is the best receiver on the board, but this is a receiver they feel that fits June Jones's system. A guy who's smart, a guy who can learn multiple positions, gives them flexibility that way, excellent route runner, soft hands, all the qualities that you want in a receiver, and a guy who also fits what they want to do.
Yeah, they marveled, everybody marveled at Chapman at the Combine, his route running, and what was so impressive was the waggle. He had not done this. He's coming from a U.S. school. He'd never done the waggle before, and it's about patience. Mark Chapman was so patient in what he did. It was captivating. It really was to see him so early in his career at the Combine running routes with this type of patience that CFL receivers takes years to figure out. We all think as fans it happens so fast out there at wideout. It doesn't. In the slot especially, it's a lot of time. It takes patience, and Mark Chapman showed that in his first week running routes from the slot. That's impressive.
And you mentioned smart, and you guys are talking about how fast he's able to pick things up. Consider that he was a scholar athlete. He was an academic All-American type of player. He's the son of a Marine officer, and when you play in that run-and-shoot offense with June Jones, receivers have to be able to make adjustments on the fly, and he certainly seems equipped to do that. And when we look at receivers that have been picked first overall in Canadian Football League history, it's not a long list. I mean, you've got to go back a ways to 2007, since Chris Bowman was taken first overall also by Hamilton. Names like Don Blair by Edmonton, Nick Mazzoli, Simon Fraser product, also taken by Hamilton, Gerald Wilcox, Mike Eben. Like, it has not been a long list. This is typically an offensive lineman draft, and if you were going to be taken first overall, you've got to be able to come in and make an immediate impact.
Yeah, and again, as I alluded to, I think it has a lot to do with the whole supply and demand situation, where Mark Chapman, in a draft that's very heavy in offensive linemen, not particularly heavy in receivers, especially receivers who are ready to step in and play. That's what differentiates us.
You know, not that the Ticats needed another reason to take him, but Dwayne, you often talk about geographic proximity. Like, if you sign a guy, because players in the CFL can walk away in free agency after 3 years, you want it to be somewhere. You know, he considers, I believe, Port Huron, Michigan home. 2 hours and 20 minutes from Hamilton. So they've got that going for him as well.
Yeah, the one knock you heard on Mark Chapman is he might be quicker than fast. What one evaluator told me when I asked him about that, I think his comment was something to the effect of, all right. He wasn't buying it. Mark Chapman can run. Turn the film on. He's leading defenders. He could run.
Yeah, and absolutely. Now, they will have to wait a little bit. Don't expect him to be signed right away, because Chapman is also going to the New York Giants mini camp, so it'll take a little bit of time for him to go through that process and then eventually get signed. Now, welcome back to the 2018 Canadian Football League Draft, and at this time we are delighted to welcome to our show the #1 overall pick in the draft, receiver Mark Chapman from Central Michigan University. He joins us on the line from his home in Port Huron. Mark, what was your thought when you got selected?
Oh, man, I know it sounds cliche, man, but it was just surreal having my family there with me during that moment, getting the call from Coach Jones. It was, you know, a dream come true for me, man. I never expected I'd be playing, you know, professional ball as a young guy growing up. So the fact that hearing my name get called, that type of stage, it's surreal. It's amazing.
I know that your brother Jarrett was selected by Hamilton in the supplemental draft a couple of years ago. So, you know, how much did you know about the CFL before this process, watching him go through that?
I'll be honest, I didn't know like too much, you know, when I started this process of, you know, preparing for the combines and the draft process. I just knew exactly what you said, like what my brother had told me about, you know, his experience at Hamilton, and which makes Hamilton such a good thing for me, because he, you know, he was there for a little bit and he had a great time there. He wasn't there for a long time, but he said, you know, couldn't speak even more highly of, you know, the program and the people there. He just spoke so highly of Hamilton as a program and as a team. So the fact that they want me to join them, it's like a mile high club, man. I'm on cloud 9 right now.
Now, I know there's always an adjustment for American receivers when they come back to the Canadian Football League, but when we saw you at the Combine, you seemed to really pick up the waggle and the motion quite well. What do you think the biggest adjustment for you is going to be?
I think I really want to master that waggle. Prior to the Combine, I'd only been working on it for a few weeks. So it's definitely something new in my arsenal, in my repertoire of weapons I would use as a receiver. But if I could just master it and get more comfortable with that, I think it'll be very advantageous for me as a wideout. It's definitely it makes the game more exciting, and it's a lot of fun actually using it. So I'm excited to use it more.
Mark, thanks for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you at training camp.
Oh, thank you so much. Thanks for calling.
All right, that's Mark Chapman, the #1 overall pick in the Canadian Football League by the Hamilton Tiger Cats.
Coach Jones, take us through the decision-making process to get up to the first overall pick. Mark Chapman, what did you like about him, either in his measurables or on tape?
Well, I like both of those, actually. The thing I really liked, he reminded me of some players that I've had in the past, and he plays faster than his 40 time was. He plays in that 4.55, 4.5 range. He's really quick, very smart, and I think that he can help us right away. And it gives us a lot of versatility on the ratio, how we want to play the game, and I'm excited about him.